friends, welcome to Teacher Therapy. Today I wanted to talk about why teachers quit, and the reason is burnout. Now, let's do a quick quiz together to find out if you are a burnt out teacher. Do you find yourself experiencing Sunday night teacher sadness? And this could extend to any day of the year. It could be the last day of a holiday. It could be the day before school starts at the beginning of the year. Although it's kind of sad if you're burnt out before the first day of school. Do you just have that sinking feeling whenever you've had a break, a snow day, whatever it may be, and then you find out that you have to go back to school the next day? Do you just have this kind of horrible sense of sadness and loss? That could definitely be a sign of burnout. Do you find yourself having trouble sleeping? Are you having teaching related nightmares? Do you wake up randomly in the middle of the night and start thinking about students or an upcoming evaluation or what you're going to do for the next unit plan? You could be approaching burnout if that happens to you. Now, what about a low-grade sense of anxiety, but you cannot pinpoint exactly what the cause is? Just whenever you think about teaching or the classroom, it's just like there's dread sitting on your shoulders. That could definitely be a sign of burnout. Now, how about this one? I think we've probably all experienced this one. How about unexplainable rage? It could be towards your poor cat when you come in from work, or it could be toward a student asking for a pencil for the 14th time that day, but do you just find yourself kind of exploding and you even surprise yourself like, whoa, where did that reaction come from? That could be a sign of teacher burnout. You know, it could look like something different for some of us. For some of us, we feel really big emotions that are really dramatic, but for others of us, we kind of go numb. We kind of don't feel anything. Not super happy, not super sad, but that kind of numb, blank feeling follows us everywhere. It's not just when we're at school, but it's just kind of everywhere. It just feels like life has kind of a gray blanket over it. That could be another sign of teacher burnout. So I think all of us to one degree or another have experienced some of these emotions and feelings, but the key to finding out if it's real burnout is it doesn't lift for any substantial period of time. Like maybe you'll have a good day here or a laugh there, but overall you're kind of experiencing these really intense emotions, or in the case of the last example, maybe you're suddenly missing emotions when you're normally a person that does have intense feelings. These could all be signs of burnout. So the question is, what causes teacher burnout? Well, there's definitely the usual culprits that you would think of. Of course, just annoying student behavior, having to fill out constant paperwork and lesson plans and documentation, the ever-looming threat of an administrator or a VIP person popping into your classroom and getting comfy in your swivel chair and watching you and your kids for 35 minutes. All of those things can definitely lead to burnout, but I think that there are some specific beliefs or emotions or just a certain sense that can really lead to teacher burnout. And I'm going to go into some of those things and see if you resonate with any of these. So I feel like the constant sensation of being behind can lead to burnout, because it's sort of like a marathon that never has a finish line. You might get through one event or ordeal, but then you just look at your calendar and there's another one coming around. Or maybe you get through a certain batch of tests, but then there's more tests around the corner. Or maybe, your kids did good in first quarter, but now you've got to make them do well again in second quarter. And it's just kind of this ongoing perpetual feeling of being behind, of needing to do more work, of never really being caught up. And it's it'll make anybody sad and burnt out, really. Another one is a little bit deeper and a little more intense. It's the feeling of never being good enough. You kind of just feel like even for your great milestones, there could always be more. This happened to me this year. As I've mentioned in another video, when I first came to this brand new school, we did our beginning of the year proficiency test, and only 11% of my students, I have about 77 of them, were on grade level at the beginning of the school year. So we took our winter testing after the fall testing, and I was able to more than double that amount. And so the powers that be were like, well, good job for, doubling that number in 2 months. And, wow, but not wow, because that score is still really bad. It's still not enough. So it's this feeling that even if you did something that by any mere mortal standards would be great, like doubling the amount of kids that are proficient, it's still quite never enough, because the number is never high enough. There's still always going to be more room for growth. And sometimes your administrators or whoever will let you know that clearly, that, well, I'm glad that you showed some growth, or in my case, I'm glad that you doubled, the amount of kids that were proficient on reading, but the number is still terrible, and you still have to grow like 65% more to be anywhere near where we want you to be. And so there's this feeling that, wow, with getting up at 4:30 in the morning and, thinking about teaching 24/7 and doing all the work that I'm doing, I'm still not even close to where I need to be. So again, it's that sense of never being good enough. Now, it kind of feeds into the next one, and it's not feeling like you're making a difference, because there's so many sort of glory metrics in teachers, and everything is so test score driven, that you can really start to feel that all the hard work that you are putting in is not worth anything. You can start to feel like you're not making a difference, because in most cases, the kid that comes in below basic, maybe at best, like maybe you get that kid on a basic level, by the next test, but there's a feeling that, well, what did I really do? I maybe put them in the next category, so to speak, but what did I really do? Or the kid with extreme social emotional problems, maybe you can kind of get them to say please and thank you, or maybe you can minimize the outburst, but it's clear that this child still really has intense needs and difficulties, so it can kind of feel like, man, I'm not really making a difference at all. So that feeling can definitely lead to burnout, when you feel like you're giving all that you have, but you don't feel like anything is really coming of it. Next one is feeling unappreciated. And I think this is a result of all of the things that I just mentioned, but when you feel like you're leaving it all on the field every single day, you feel like you're either thinking about teaching or working on teaching as much as you humanly could, yet you're still not having high enough test scores. Kids still haven't had the dramatic before and after transformation, and you still feel like there's so much room for growth. You can really start to feel like the work that you do is unappreciated. There's a real temptation to sort of feel like, well, if I'm doing all this work, pretty much working at full capacity, and I'm not getting the results that I want, I'm being told that I need to do more, I'm being told that the test scores need to be higher, I'm being told that I need to do more with these children, there's kind of a temptation to say, well, what is it even all for? Why am I going to keep working that hard? And that's where you'll see a lot of teachers at a certain point in the year, maybe they stop coming in early. Maybe they started the year coming in super early, but then they realize, wait, why am I getting up early? Why am I staying up late? Why am I working through the weekends? If I'm doing all of that and it's yielding almost no return, then why not just kind of do the bare minimum? And that is a symptom of burnout in many ways, because you feel like you're doing so much, but you don't really feel like it's for anything. And it also feels like all that work is for free. And then if nobody really says thank you, nobody praises you, nobody congratulates you, then wow, you're just gonna kind of want to give up. So here's another one that can lead to burnout: the feeling of always being one step away from being in trouble. Now, I've experienced this so often, and I don't know if it is something that administrators intentionally try to do to kind of keep teachers in line. And I don't know if it's because there's so many just surprise observations all the time, or there's just weird eye in the sky feeling like you're always being watched. But for a lot of us, and especially if you're in a year that you've got some crazy difficult parents, it is really easy to feel like you are always one step away from getting exposed or punished or in trouble or on the news or just something crazy. And that just underlying anxiety that's constantly with us, that is tiresome. Feeling like you're either always in trouble or nearly almost in trouble, that is just so discouraging, and that definitely leads to burnout. And what that ends up doing in the long run, all of these things combined together, is it kind of puts us in survival mode. It kind of puts us in a mode where we've sort of lost our joy and our spark and our creativity and our passion. like I mentioned before, like maybe we're not getting up as early, or maybe we're not staying after school anymore to work on things. Maybe even during our plan times, we're kind of like, checking our news feed or checking social media. It just kind of yields to this thing where we say, I just need to survive. I need to make it through the day, whether that involves, eating 19 burritos after work, or, sadly for some, it leads to alcohol abuse and worse. It just is this feeling that I just need to survive. And that's probably the biggest symptom of burnout. If you're just feeling like I must make it through the day and all kind of joy, passion, creativity, that extra spark is gone, then you're probably in a state of burnout. Now, I have something else that I wanted to briefly address, and this is a hard reality for teachers. So teachers typically begin teaching for one of three reasons. Either they love learning, they love kids, or they love helping people. Now, what happens when your students don't love learning? What happens when your students don't like you back? And what happens when the kids that you so desperately want to help don't want to receive that help and refuse to receive that help? That reality is just crushing. I ultimately see sort of teacher happiness, if you will. You can look at it with a few analogies, either as a bank account or a balance beam. And so we'll just do a bank account just for fun. So basically, if you've got a bank account here, and at the beginning of the year you're super excited, so it's like your bank account is full, and then maybe not too many bad things have happened at this point, right? So you're kind of doing okay, but all of a sudden when all of those realities start to take place, it's like, oh my gosh, your positive experiences start getting less and less. Eventually the kids start complaining. Maybe you get some ugly, nasty parent emails. Maybe you get a few bad surprise observations, and you realize that your kids think everything you're talking about is boring and stupid. Then your bank account starts going negative, right? And there's so few things that are adding to it. I mean, maybe you'll have a day when you and your students share a really funny joke. Maybe there's some kind of magical moment when you're reading a novel together where a kid makes like amazing text to self connection. Like, those moments in teaching definitely happen. And there's probably special moments if we look for them every day. I'm sure all of us could think of maybe 1 to 3 sweet, sparkly moments per day. But what starts to happen is when all of these big, giant, looming things start to weigh heavy on us, those sweet, special sparkle moments are not enough for our morale. They're not enough for our energy. They're not enough for our mental health. And then that's when teachers tend to start sinking. Now, you add that experience up over years and you have a crisis of teachers quitting, or sometimes maybe teachers staying in the field because they have to, but maybe their heart has gone out of the building a long time ago. Maybe their sparkle has left a long time ago, and that kind of gives the sort of cynical, sad teacher stereotype. But I don't think people realize what causes that. As we've talked about in other videos, the way teaching is set up today is basically a burnout factory. It's magical and it's miraculous that all teachers don't burn out the way school is set up today. And so in a future video, I really hope to kind of give some ideas to help overcome burnout if you're there. But at the time of this filming, it is like right past Valentine's Day. It's President's Day when I'm filming this. And a lot of teachers are in full burnout mode. We are cherishing every snow day, we're cherishing every last holiday, and we are counting down the days to spring break vacation. So if that's you today, just know that you are not alone. Don't judge yourself, don't beat yourself up, don't condemn yourself. The way the system is set up, and as hard as this job is, it is a miracle that we're all not burnt out at this point. But I hope to come with some more hope and encouragement pretty soon to help you guys out. So hopefully that resonated with you. Hopefully you feel a little bit understood and cared about by someone in the teaching universe today. And if you can resonate, please comment below, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I hope you guys have a great day. And if you're going back to school tomorrow, hang in there, champion. All right, bye guys.